We've talked about land a lot. Leading up to the 1.5 release, we've covered it from every different angle. And not just me, every other YouTuber too. We all wanted to be prepared as much as possible, right? Now we're leading into and talking about Land 2.0 to try to be prepared for that. But what we haven't talked about is who's holding the land, who bought all this land. If you want to run the numbers with me and check out where we stand, stay tuned. Hey, all you Splinterheads, welcome back. Bronze Dragon here saying thanks for dropping by. If you like this kind of content, please like and consider giving me a subscribe if you watch a few of my videos and like them. I appreciate it. With that said, today I was on Splintercards, which I have open consistently in a tab in my browser on a daily basis because it has so much useful information in it. And I was just kind of digging around, trying to find some information that I might find interesting. And I did. We have considered almost every different angle of the land game. However, what I haven't really considered is who actually bought the land, right? I know we've talked about quote-unquote whales and such like that, and we know there are large holders in the game. But I had never really considered who those people were and how much actual land they hold and how much money value-wise that represents. Today, I was able to get an eye on it, and you may have seen this before, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Splintercards website, and this is under Lands and Land Richlist, okay? And what this does is this gives you a list of people that own plots of land and gives you the information as far as what they own and what qualities of land they own, rarities rather, and if they own castles, keeps, and things like that. And it gives a list from the number one player down to the last player. Okay, so I started looking at this list, and what I found amazed me. Okay, I want to make a caveat here. I'm not here to step on anybody's toes. My main takeaway here is that it amazed me that some people have put so much money into the game. Not saying one way or the other. I'm not judging anybody, right? Everybody decides what to do with their money. But to me, I found it perfectly amazing how much money that some people have chosen to put into this game. Okay, and like I said, I'm not here to step on any toes. I just wanted to point out where we stand in this land game, who owns, the greatest majority versus, the smaller percentages. Before we start going down through the names and going through the numbers, we can see that Vugtus is number one by a long shot. But I stopped and I did some numbers and I did some counting. And I did my numbers a few times. If I'm not perfectly right, I'm off by a couple. Don't sue me. But I'm pretty sure as I did the numbers a few times. So let's look at the lists I brought up. Okay. So what I wanted to do is look at the top players versus the bottom players in the land game. Okay. And what I found was the top three players in the game, in the land game, the top three owners in the land game, own more plots of land, and that's besides the fact of the higher quality plots of land, own more plots of land than those persons in the land game that own 10 plots or less. And that is 3,259 players or users. Okay, I want to state users because as we've discussed back and forth over time, it's an arguing point how many players, active players, Splinterlands actually has. But one takeaway I had from looking at the land numbers is that there seems to be more people invested in land than actually play the game. And I mean, that makes a little bit of sense because there are people that come in from outside of the game and invest in land, as a monetary investment, right? So I understand that. So let's take a look at the numbers. You can see my my number list here. It starts with one plot. There's 1,442 players that own one plot at this point in time, right? As we know, these things change on a day-by-day basis, an hour-by-hour basis, but this is the numbers I pulled this afternoon, okay? 638 players own two plots. 313 players own three plots, 184 players own four plots, 270 players own five plots, which seemed to be like a middle ground there. People said, oh, I want five plots. 123 players own six plots, 84 players own seven plots, 66 players own eight plots, 59 players own nine plots, and 80 players own 10 plots. And this all amounts to 3,259 users, or accounts, rather. This amounts to 9,028 plots. Okay, now, if we go back to the top three holders of land, they own 10,617 plots. So the top three players own more plots of land than 3,259 users at the bottom end of the land spectrum. Okay. That's one takeaway, okay? The next takeaway is the top 25 landholders own 47,140 of 138,292 plots. So roughly around a third of the plots of land. And obviously there's a lot going on in between the top three and the bottom 1 through 10 plots. But that's a significant, those two portions are significant comparison, right? Now, one other number I want to point out is that 4,037 separate accounts are holding land. Back to my point of, well, we are always talking about how many actual players, live players, do we have in the Splinterlands game. So take it for what you will. But there are a little bit over 4,000 separate accounts holding land. Okay, so let's exit out of this and let's go back to Splintercards. Now, what we can see is Vugtus owns a little bit over 4,500 plots of land. Drilling in, and I'm not going to do this for everybody, and I'm not picking on Vugtus. He's just number one. He or she's just number one, so that's why I'm doing this. You can see right here that they own 5 castles and 40 keeps, let alone all the other plots they own. Okay, this is a huge investment. Okay, I'm just amazed. I just wanted to point that out. I am amazed at the amount of money. I mean, this is coming from a guy who has just 11 low-end plots, right? And how much money I've put into them compared to how much money would take to bring these up online just amazes me. Okay, let's go back out. Stop picking on Vugtus. But the next thing I want to point out is GameCredits.org. Was unfamiliar. I had to look them up. So thanks to Google, I found that Game Credits is a totally different community. Okay, and it looks to me like, without further information on this, it looks to me like they're completely they're invested in the Splinterlands land game as part of their overall Web3 gaming strategy. Okay, so if you're interested, you can go over to genesis.game and look that up, or just look up their look up gamecredits.org. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot of information on it, but the one takeaway I have from this is it's a completely different game and completely different infrastructure invested in the Splinterlands infrastructure because they saw the value in the land, right? That's my takeaway here. They may or may not actively play the card game. I don't know, but it seems like more of an investment. And player 3 is Blockchain FF, which I'm not sure is it an actual person or if is it an entity like the prior one, but they own 2 castles and 16 keeps. I'm only going to cover the top 20, and I'm not going to read through each one, but there's a lot of familiar names on here. A lot of people we hear from in Discord and on the various media, different videos and things like that, where everybody's talking about Splinterlands. We have Master Sorcerer, Cryptomancer, Bribro. Not familiar with Neil.cards, might be an entity or a person. Matt Clark. I'm not familiar with Promote.helper. Sounds like another entity, maybe a person that has a something they're selling. Otherwise, we have Knight AV. I'm not familiar with Null Flame. Of course, Matt, Yaba P. Matt. I'm surprised he's so low on the list. To be frank, I thought he would be higher on the list. But with that said, he's got 1,710 plots, so that's a lot of land. So Crypto Eater, Michael B., Snowboy 145, not familiar with those two. Byzantinist, of course, Fighter for Freedom, Level Up Life PH, Jarvie, we're familiar with, and rounding out the top 20 is Azurkhan. So these, a lot of these are people we hear from on a regular basis and have pretty good opinions. They're fully invested in the land game, so they've thought about this a lot, and it's a lot of money. I keep saying that, but Frank, okay, so I'll give you an example. Okay, so I have 11 plots, 11 low-end plots. I have one epic, but the others are rare and commons, right? No castles, no keeps. I have them fully staked out at about, baseline about 10, 11,000 PP per plot, okay? I'm into that about $1,500 to $2,000 for 11 plots. Extrapolate that out to thousands. Okay, I'm not saying they have everything fully maxed out. Of course, these bigger guys are still working on it, right? And there's always going to be probably a certain percentage that they just hold for future. Obviously, a lot of people who, in my mind, if you invest this heavily into the game, you're obviously really pro land and you're thinking that the value is going to go up. So a certain portion they may just hold for future and sell it off, right? Certain portion they get up and running. Obviously, you might want to get as much up and running as possible, but we're talking a huge amount of money, okay? So for what it's worth, that was a look at the land rich list. I just thought it was really interesting. What do you think? Have you taken a look at the numbers? Have you considered it at all? Leave the comments down below. Otherwise, I hope everyone on your side is happy and healthy, and I will see you on the flip side.